Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I'm Ruth Shelley, President of the Rotary Club of Portland. Welcome to our live weekly membership meeting. As our banner says, Rotary opens opportunities to find solutions for today's challenges. Healing from the pandemic, recovery from the economic downturn, and peace building as we seek racial justice. This week, we focus on door number 3, peace building, as we learn about how the Rotary World Peace Fellowship has encouraged participants to build peace in surprising ways, sometimes by accident. But first, let's welcome Rotarian Terry Goldman for our reflection. Terry?
Sorry, thank you, Kurt, and thank you, President Ruth. Today, I'm going to be sharing some examples from an article by Dr. Shirok Sokich, written for hearttoheartmedicalcenter.com. The article is titled, What It Means to Care and Why Caring is So Important. Dr. Sokich writes, I was thinking about the meaning of the word caring the other day. I was thinking about it as part of my evolution as a person and healer in the writing of my book. An article from the National Institutes of Health explains the difference between empathy and caring really well. The article suggested that being empathetic allows you to feel another person's feelings, but doesn't really give space for you to check in and see how that person is actually experiencing life. Caring, however, asks that you check in, find out what's happening, and then find a way to help the person get what they need. Dr. Sokich continues to say, why is caring so important? As I think about it in my world, caring means that I pay attention to detail. I care about what I do and make an effort to do my best. When you care, you put in that extra effort to make sure that something works for you or the other person you care about. As I finish today's reflection, I ask that you all, my fellow Rotarians, take a moment and think about someone or something you care about and how you can pay attention to the important details that demonstrate you care.
Thank you, Terry. I like that difference between empathy and caring. We have to take the extra step. If any of you would like to give the reflection at an upcoming meeting, please let us know or fill out the link provided in the chat box. Now we'd like to welcome any virtual guests and thank you for tuning into our weekly meeting. Please introduce yourself in the chat box where you will find a link to guest registration. We're eager for you to fill it out so that we can stay in touch. And it's still September. I would like to extend a happy anniversary to everyone who joined Rotary Club of Portland this month. We alternate honoring birthdays and Rotary anniversaries each month, and I encourage you to note the names of these anniversary people. Please reach out to one of them with a call or an email as a small but meaningful way for us to stay connected. I'm always impressed with the 30+ years people. Wes, Robert, congratulations. And now we're going to enter into a virtual table talk. In a few moments, all of us will disappear and then reappear in a virtual room with just a few other Rotarians. If you don't know each other, please introduce yourselves. A minute or so before you come back to this main meeting, you'll get a visual heads up. And may I suggest a topic for your breakout room? Please share what you enjoyed doing once again when the smoke lifted from our Portland skies. I'm looking out to blue sky and it's just so wonderful. So here we go into our breakout rooms. Have fun. Well, I hope you enjoyed your table topics. And please now welcome Rotarian Nihat Awida to give us an update on the annual golf tournament. Nihat?
Hi everyone, it's me again. About a week ago, we got smoked out and we have delayed our golf event. And this time we are going to be physically distanced and hold our event at the Oregon Golf Club in the West Lynn/Stafford area. It is on October 12th and it is going to be, tea time will start at 11 o'clock and every 10 minutes we have another team going. it's each person will be in one cart, and unless you live in the same household, then both of you can be in the same cart. And we are only allowed 72 players. We are giving you lunch, driving range, and a putting contest with this event, and all of it for the small price of $130 a person. Oregon Golf Club is private club. We don't get to use it a lot. And it is on October 12th, it is Columbus Day or Indigenous People Day. So I hope that you guys can be there. We have 50 people right now, and we are limited to 72. Hopefully you can make it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Nihad. And Siobhan has put the registration up in the chat. How wonderful that we get a new course, and we hope blue skies. But someone who's particularly concerned about smoky skies is our Rotarian Dale Kuntz, who will now give us an update on the Oregon fires. Dale?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me today. Yeah, so, 3 weeks ago, 78 large fires started throughout the state of Oregon. I used the term unprecedented, and then, it's 2020. Unprecedented doesn't mean anything. So you have to say historic and unprecedented when referring to this kind of event. It's one of those things that, if it was an earthquake, Scott Burns would be talking about it for a generation. But it's a wildfire, and it sort of affected everybody from Lincoln City and the town of Otis all the way down south to the cities of Phoenix and Talent, all the way to the east in Klamath Falls. It's an area, we actually looked at it, it's an area about 21,000 square miles. If you think about the size of the disaster. It's about 4 times bigger than the area that was just affected by Hurricane Laura in Louisiana, to give you an idea of the scale of it. In the first few days, the state and the Red Cross and other folks, we really focused on helping people to make sure that they were safe and in shelters. At some point, 400,000 plus people were under a level 2 evacuation and chose to leave their homes. Many people were under level 3 evacuations and were sort of woken up by the bang of a sheriff at their door at 1 o'clock in the morning saying, "Go now," and then drove out through tunnels of fire throughout the state. The largest sort of loss of life will happen down in the Southern Oregon area in Phoenix and Talent, where a fire was started and then ran through both of those cities in short order, and then was stopped heroically by the firefighters down in Medford from getting into the city of Medford. There are many thousands of Oregonians who have asked for help and who are receiving help from the Red Cross and other nonprofits. Last night, we had about 3,000 people that were staying sort of in shelters, either in hotels, which we call non-congregate shelters, which is the best thing for COVID, to make sure that everyone's safe. Or people were staying in like congregate shelters. You can think about this as like your high school gym or your expo center and things like that. That were also safe. The beds are far apart. You got to wear your mask, a hand sanitizer, all the best COVID things you could ever think of. We implemented, strangely enough, 1 week after my talk about missing maps and mapping so long ago, back in March. And we've been working with the state to put those protocols into place. To give you an idea of sort of the scale of what this looks like, we've had almost 30,000 nights, if you think about each individual person and each individual room or bed that they've had, about 30,000 nights that the Red Cross and our partners have sheltered people. And that's spread across, as of this morning, 73 sites. So 73 different sites across the state are sort of have folks in it. We have 550 Red Cross volunteers on the ground from 16 different states, including the state of Oregon. So in those first few days, our local volunteers stood up in open shelters, and then the cavalry arrived, so to speak, from all of the Red Crossers around the country. And folks are, Oregonians being Oregonians, they're staying in their RVs, they're staying in their cars, and they're sort of being self-sufficient. And all of the nonprofits across the state who are working in this space are going and making sure that they have food, making sure that they have access to housing options if they'd like them, and sort of all of those kinds of different things. The road forward for what we have in the wildfires is going to be a long one, right? So this is not now, the fires are almost out. They're smoldering. I drove through Blue River last night, and they're still smoldering. There's still active fires on the side of the road. If you can see them on fire, and they will be on fire for quite some time. Our hope is that the winter rains, the October rains, the November rains will be able to really put them out. But the smoke will be with us for quite some time. Our fingers crossed is that it will not be as bad as it was the last few weeks, and sort of changing us into a sci-fi futurescape that we all want to avoid. But the fires will be here for quite some time. We're estimating that several thousand people have lost their homes, and many more are unable to go back to their homes. Wildfire is a very fickle thing. It may burn an entire block, it may burn an entire neighborhood, except for 1 or 2 homes. And those 1 or 2 homes will look pristine and perfect, as if nothing has happened, and everything around them will be black and carbon. And those homes, even though they're standing now, won't have fire, they won't have water, they won't have power. And so folks can't move back, or the land itself will be too toxic for them to be around because of all of the chemicals that burned in the other houses. So this is gonna be a long road for many Oregonians throughout the state. We're talking in months and years, not in weeks and days. And so that will take a long time. And that's my update, as rosy as that is. But the great part, I think, and that we can be proud of as Rotarians and Oregonians, is that we put the call out for additional volunteers. And we said, we need more volunteers to sort of fulfill our mission to help other Oregonians. We've had 2,500 people answer that call and say, hey, I'm willing to go serve food for 2 hours. I'm willing to go do something else for a few minutes. And it's been absolutely, absolutely amazing. So you can, thank your fellow Oregonians for their amazing work that they're contributing right now, either to the Red Cross or the other nonprofits that are working in the space. So with that, thank you all. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. And for those of you who don't know Dale, he heads up the Red Cross for the entire state of Oregon. We're so grateful to you and for the Red Cross for all that invaluable service. Dale, if you would like to add a link in the chat as to how we can get involved, either by donating time or money, feel free to do so. Thanks again. And now moving on, last Wednesday, I had the pleasure of attending our Rotary Club's Toastmasters meeting. I was impressed by the age and gender diversity of the group and how much they clearly cared for each other, picking up on Terry's reflection. They truly care for each other. Besides, their energy and elocution was noteworthy, especially for 7:15 in the morning. Now please welcome Rotarians Dick Wingert and Mari Bunnage to talk with us about the joy of Toastmasters. Dick?
I think I'm actually going to begin, Ruth.
Okay, Mari.
Hello, fellow Rotarians. I am new to Toastmasters. I joined just a few months ago during COVID because I was looking for a way to connect with my fellow Rotarians a little more. And since then, I have heard stories. I have learned a lot from my fellow Toastmasters, including last week, there was a great info about coral reefs. The week before, there was a chess demonstration. And in addition to learning and hearing all of this, I've had opportunities to practice, improve, and get feedback on my own speaking skills. Toastmasters has not only helped me build my own personal skills, but as Ruth mentioned, it's also a great way to start your day with purpose and intentionality. And honestly, it's a lot of fun. And you get to hear about stories from people's lives that you might not otherwise know. And I feel like I'm so much closer to so many members of our Rotary Club through joining Toastmasters. And it's really something that I look forward to every Wednesday morning. And with that, I will pass it over to Dick to tell you a little bit more.
Hey, Mari, thank you. And President Ruth, thank you for visiting our Toastmasters Club. And thank you, the Board of Directors of the Rotary Club under the leadership of Augustine Enriquez, who back in 2015 approved Terry Beard's request and vision to form a Toastmaster Club as part of our Rotary Club in order to perform service above self by helping people overcome their fear of public speaking. And hopefully you remember Melissa Chikara. She was actually the first president of our Toastmaster Club. And where are we 5 years later? We have 40 members in our Rotary Toastmasters Club, which is a safe harbor community. It's a calm refuge in a competitive world. We leave the win-loss environment at the front door. We are about encouraging and empowering people to explore and nourish their core identities, and we allow each other to be vulnerable in a professional way. And so it becomes a weekly ritual of mutual enhancement where people find their voices. This is service above self for each other. And lo and behold, Rotary International and Toastmasters International have formed an alliance. And even the president of Rotary International, Holger Knack, has specifically mentioned our Rotary Toastmaster Club. We are a safe community, and we would love to have you explore by checking out one of our meetings. You can reach out to Brian Daisy, who's on this call. You can also, we're going to post a list of Toastmaster Rotary members who are available to guide you into the process, and then you can fly with your own wings. I see some of them on this call. There's Mari, Curtis Shirey, Delaney Delamont, Brian Daisy, Mark Gabriel, Terry Beard, Mike Sandoval, and also Kurt Mardig from Ohio, and Delaney Delamont, if I didn't mention her. So we'd encourage you to reach out and try it. Everybody that's tried it, almost everybody that's tried it, just comes back week after week. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dick and Mari. If you're interested in Toastmasters, now's a good time to just reach out to Dick or Mari in the chat box. And now onto our program. After our speaker, Leah Klass, today is finished, if you'd like to ask a question, Kurt will moderate the Q&A through the chat box. We'll have more details in a minute. And now, please welcome past District Governor and past President, Rotarian Danielle Banks, as today's Chair of the Day. Danielle?
Thank you, President Ruth. What a great day to have someone like Leah Klass speak to our club. Yesterday was International Peace Day, and our club has a member that was the recipient yesterday for the John W. McDonald Honorary Award. It is given by the University of George Mason University and the Jimmy and Rosalind Carter. I think they're called Foundation in this case. Anyway, Al is the recipient, and one of the things that was brought to mind was the importance of the Rotary Peace Fellow Program. Today, our speaker is Leah Klass. She is a communications consultant, a writer, a community poet, and activist who strives to advance cultural awareness and passion in others. She teaches communication and connects nonprofits and diverse communities in Oregon and the world. Leah is a 2004 recipient of the Rotary World Peace Fellowship, studied in Argentina, worked with microcredit programs in Brazil, and completed her master's degree at the University of Queensland in Brisbane, Australia. She was a 2019 Legacy Fellow for SAGE, a community of advocates who believe that each generation should improve the quality of life for the next. And in October, she will participate in the Western States Center Train the Trainer program for their Confronting White Nationalism in Schools toolkit. She lives in Portland with her husband and their 2 daughters. Please welcome today Rotary Peace Fellow, Leah Klass, who will share 3 personal stories with us.
Thank you so much, Danielle, and thank you, President Ruth, and all of the Rotarians on this call. I'm really grateful for your time and all of your amazing efforts that I've been listening to in the past few minutes, and congratulations to Al also. It is with great pride that I am still a Rotary Peace Fellow, even though I had my completion of my master's degree thanks to the Rotary Foundation and that program in the year 2007. Here we are in 2020, and not only does it still hold the weight of that amazing achievement, it still is something that helps to spread peace every day, and it speaks highly of Rotary programming and desire to build peace in the world, that the individuals who participate in your generous programs can keep doing that work anywhere they go in the world. So I also, ahead of time, just quickly want to say, if I may today have the support of my 2 elementary age daughters or our COVID puppy, so I'll try to keep a focus on the camera here. They said they would help me do that. What I'm going to do today is bring you some hope. I'm someone who's a community connector. I am a true extrovert. I learned at the beginning of this quarantine crisis that not only do I rely on large networks for my inner energy, I actually love talking to complete strangers, which is really hard to do in a time like this when you're supposed to stay inside. So at the very beginning of the quarantine, I immediately thought about my existing networks. And I ask all of you to do that. I think that's an untapped resource, especially for people who belong to a Rotary Club. Your networks are not only the people you see every day and every week in a meeting like this, they extend like waves beyond everyone here on the screen. And all of us have that many more contacts that we can share with each other in any given situation. So my husband is a pathologist. We talk a lot about science here in the house. We also encourage our daughters to do that. And in the very beginning of the crisis, I was worried that some of my community friends who are migrants and refugees here in Portland would not have access to COVID prevention information the way that those of us who can read and write fluently can. So I went online and I decided to look for some kind of resource that could be shared with people who maybe didn't listen to the radio like I do, or weren't able to search the internet like I do. And something I came across caught my eye, and I'm going to show you here. It was a flyer published by an agency, and it was this pictorial flyer, which without very many words, although at the time I found it, it did have English on it, it showed people how to prevent COVID in their community. So I did some research and found out who came up with this idea. And I wrote to the nonprofit, which is out of Leeds in the United Kingdom, and asked them, would this be something they could take the English off so that we could share it with other people from other countries, or maybe even share it with people who didn't have strong literacy? And they wrote me back and they said, yes, that would be great. So they sent me this PDF of a form, and it had the language removed. And I immediately got on the phone with some friends and said, what are our networks? And the first one that my friends say, they always remind me, is my Rotary World Peace Fellow Network, which is a huge group of people, as you know. Because not only is there the 2-year degree program, but there are the 3-month programs in Thailand. So I sent this pictorial flyer out in an email to a Rotary World Peace Fellow Google group. And I was really excited to get an email back from a man named Tim Kariuki in Nyeri, Kenya. And he said, this is just what we need. So what did Tim do? Tim translated this flyer into Kiswahili. He runs a nonprofit that helps educate his public in his region. And here is a later photo of that same flyer, now translated with Kiswahili. He added this calendar at the bottom so that when he went and trained people about COVID prevention, they would keep this flyer on the wall for a longer time. If it has a calendar, it's more useful. So I called Tim back and said, hey, what else do you need? And he said, well, we could use funding. And I thought, okay, who do I know? And I did something that I now recognize as pre-quarantine behavior. I went through all my contacts and I wrote them very formal letters. Would you be able to help us? And most people said, we're so busy here with our own crisis, we can't help you. So I thought again, how could I do this differently? And I wrote to Tim and said, how much money do you need? And his answer was $300 US. And I was actually I felt ashamed that I hadn't just offered that in the first place. I'm very privileged to be able to do that. And so I said, maybe I should just find a way to send it myself. So Tim took this $300. He's now my Rotary Peace Fellow colleague. He was a Peace Fellow in Chula, I guess, more than 5 years after I did my 2-year degree in Australia. And he took this funding and he went out and he trained women health leaders from an isolated area in northeastern Kenya. And I want to show you those pictures right now because it was something that was so exciting. Let's see how I get to the next photo. Excuse me, everyone, while I do this. Here you go. Here are women who walked in from their villages for the training in Isiolo County in eastern Kenya. Here they are with the posters that they learned about COVID prevention by looking at and studying. They all have calendars on the bottom. And with this money, he was also able to purchase these masks and show people properly how to wear the masks. And these women, 18 women, all went back to their respective homes and trained people in their villages. And since he's been able to do this in some slums and some other areas. So he and I continue to work together. Daniil recently told me that there's actually someone in Oregon who was a Peace Fellow in Chula who is connected with another Kenyan Peace Fellow, and they are also working on COVID prevention programming. So now all 4 of us are connected. So this is one example of how, when you're not sure how to help people, you just reach out. So I just reached out and said, how can I help? And I think it's important that I tell you that I probably could have asked, how can I help, more than once and even sooner than I did. So the next story that I want to tell you is, it's about the wildfires that Dale was mentioning. And when that first happened, not so long ago, we were all shocked. We live here in Southwest Portland. We saw the sky turn brown. We heard the news about the 45-mile-an-hour winds and all of the potential fires that could start as a result. And almost immediately, I thought, what can we do? Here we are trapped in our homes with our children trying to do remote learning. How can we help? And so thanks to my experience with Rotary, I don't have any fear of public speaking or of calling people I don't know on the phone. So I made a call to the United Way of Mid-Willamette, and I asked, how could we help? And they said, well, someone called us just now from Portland. Her name is Sally. And I thought, I think I know who that is. Is that Sally Cohen? Turns out they just received a phone call from my neighbor, Sally, here in Southwest, who runs a nonprofit called Positive Charge PDX. And they do lots of random and not so random acts of kindness as quickly as they can when it occurs to them. So I spoke with Sally and we talked about a donation drive. And we ended up doing 4 days in a row of donation drives, in which on one day we acquired 9 car and truckloads of specific requests that United Way had made in a parking lot not too far away. And we had volunteer drivers who also said, I'll drive to Salem, I'll drive to White City, I'll drive to Ashland. And the local response was phenomenal. I mean, it blew us all away. It made us feel like if we can do this in a day, we can do anything. We can change the world. It was really exciting. And on Sunday the 13th, which was my birthday, I was in a parking lot helping receive donations, and someone pointed to me and said, she's a liaison. Now that day, we were collecting supplies for migrant workers in the Talent and Phoenix area, again, which Dale mentioned. Phoenix and Talent were almost completely destroyed. Many thousands of residences are no longer in existence. And when I had first called down the Thursday before that, I thought maybe since I have school-age children, I'll try to get in touch with some of the people who have school-age children. So I called the schools and I left a message. Because I hadn't talked to a live person, I called someone at a nonprofit that I'd looked up called Unite Oregon, which means unite in Spanish. They are a migrant worker advocacy group. And they said, oh, you can't call into the schools in Talent. The school burnt down. All the administrative offices are gone. All the documentation about the children is gone. It's important to understand that in that region between Medford and Ashland, right now, they were in the middle of the pear harvest. Many hundreds, if not thousands of people work in the fields and are agricultural workers. Many come on temporary federal visas as migrant labor to pick fruit that will go into a Harry and David box. These people lost everything. So I was really worried about them. So because I couldn't get in touch with the woman from schools, I thought, who do I call? How do I do this? I'm sure, as all of you know, it was kind of chaos. No one knew who to call. So I looked up a local newspaper in Ashland, and I saw a reporter's name, and I wrote him an email and said, please, can you help me find a way to help these migrant families? So he sent my name and number through to a high school teacher from Phoenix, who sent my name and number to the woman who takes care of the migrant education program. And the result of this is that now, 2 weeks later, I am helping put together a much larger effort, fundraising for people who are often on their path to citizenship. However, given current federal regulations, they are unable to receive any state or federal funding, even after having lost their homes and their belongings, and sometimes their documentation. I have made friends who are community outreach workers throughout the South, and now I have friends and neighbors who are excited to donate directly to that community, and some of whom have even adopted a family. So that was all through some adrenaline rush, the good endorphins from connecting with new people that an extrovert like me needs, a use of my own Spanish language, and I think a commitment to always finding some new way to do good and to reach out to other people. So that was my second story for you today. And I want to finish up with this accidental opportunity to connect, which we all have had. A few weeks ago, I was asked to be on a Rotary Action Group for Peace phone call led by Allison Sutherland of a Wales Rotary Club. And I was invited by an Argentine peace fellow named Carolina Soca. She said, please come on this call and talk about the Kenyan project you've been working on. Some of the Rotarians would like to hear about it. Well, I went in the Zoom room like this, and I didn't know anyone, and Carolina wasn't there. So I introduced myself. I'm, as Danielle said, I'm a consultant, I'm a poet, I like to wear a lot of hats, and I like to meet new people. And in the middle of the call, Allison said, it's nice to meet you. You can share for a few minutes about your Kenya project, but really what we're all waiting for on pins and needles is the appearance of Kareem Waspi. He is an award-winning Iraqi symphony conductor who played his cello at a peace conference in Geneva. And he is being featured by the Rotary Action Group for Peace for some of his music. Shaping Peace Through the Arts is the program that they're working on. So he came on the line and he's a rather flamboyant and exciting man, as you would expect a symphony conductor to be. And he said, I'm ready to help you compose a peaceful song to bring joy and peace to the hearts of Rotarians everywhere. And he said, tell me about the inspiration. And everyone looked excitedly at him. And someone said, Leah is a poet. And I thought, oh, this is my first call with these people. I don't know them very well. And he said, here is my cello. Read me your poem. And so I will right now read you the poem that I read. And the accidental peace building was that Kareem played his cello, composed a song as I read this piece. And so I will share my screen with you so you can read along. Again, this is back to this belief that I have that every day we all need hope, we all need community, and that we can be as hopeful as the hope that we bring. We all have it in us. So I'll put this up so that you can read along, and I will read the Spanish first. Nuestro futuro. Eres mi esperanza. Veo tu imagen, la mujer con quien sueño. Cruzas la calle sin mirar para atrás. Andas con una confianza que compartes con el mundo. Te miran y se sientan esperanza. Poder y belleza y simpatía. Su postura es todo que queremos del futuro, que sostenemos del pasado. En la mañana entiendo, soy mujer, soy palabra, soy sol, soy amiga, soy hermana, soy amor. La mujer de mi sueño soy yo, esperanza. So in English, our future. You are my hope. I see your image, the woman in my dreams. You cross the street without looking back. You walk with a confidence that you share with the world. They watch you and they feel hope, power and beauty and kindness. Your posture is everything that we want for the future, that we hold from the past. In the morning, I understand. I am woman. I am world. Word. Oh, and world. I am word. I am son. I am friend. I am sister. I am love. I am the woman in my dreams. I am hope. So I'll close with that. And thank you for your time today. And I give you this, I share with you my hope for the future, that this kind of passion for changing the world and for promoting peace that you all have will be what we see in our future. So thank you.
Oh, Leah, thank you so much. That was wonderful. We have time for 2 or 3 questions, and Kurt will moderate those. Why don't you just put your question, or say that you have a question, in the chat box, and Kurt will see who has a question in the chat box and call on you. So alternately, if you want to raise your hand in the screen and just wave a little bit, we will see.
Okay, first question is from Chris Ackerman. Chris, go ahead.
Okay, this is a little bit off the subject. So you have 2 daughters. Are they involved in the Spanish immersion program? And if they are, what are you doing to apply your amazing energy to that program? And my impetus for this is that my daughter was in the very first group that became the Lincoln Spanish Immersion Program out of Ainsworth. So anyway, comments on Spanish immersion.
Thank you so much, Chris. My daughters are not in the Spanish immersion program. As you know, it's the Lottery Inn, although we are in Portland Public. And what we do, what they do help me with is they are on the phone often with some of the Guatemalan migrants that I work with, and they help speak to their friends in English. And then we do some Spanish language here at home. And we also have friends in Spain and have helped by hiring some young teachers who are located in Spain. We did that through the summer, who could give Zoom classes. So it's a tough one when you're at home. Not all kids, as you know, in those immersion programs have Spanish-speaking parents.
Yeah,
it's a tough one when
ours.
you're in quarantine, but thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other questions popping up right now. Are there any other questions for Leah? Alan Bazaz.
That was an amazing poem, and thank you for sharing it with us. It happens to that on this call there is an Iraqi, but that's me. But I'm not a celloist or a musician, but I'm passionate for making peace, and I would love to hear the song if you can share it somehow.
I will send through to Daniil, I guess, to have whomever my contacts are with your club. There is a short video that I believe Allison and her group released just this past weekend for the UN Day of Peace, which was yesterday. And then I'll make sure that everyone gets that also. And thank you for your lovely compliment.
Next question is from Daniil.
Forgot to ask Leah about whether you are or where you are published with your poetry or other writings.
Thank you, Daniil. I've had a poem published on the Poetry Post at the Multnomah Arts Center here in town. It's not there anymore. It was a couple of years ago. And I'm actually working right now with an editor on publishing my first book of poetry this year. Thank you for asking.
Oh, that's very exciting. Thank you for such great questions. Next week, we'll hear from Oregon Historical Society Executive Director Carrie Timchuk, always a thoughtful and entertaining speaker. And once again, this meeting will be live on Zoom at noon on Tuesday. As we close, I want to thank our virtual guests today, particularly Peace Fellow Andy Stone, Alan Bazaz that we just heard from at the Lake Oswego Club, and Larry Strober from the McMinnville Club. So glad you could join us. Thank you, Terry, for your reflection today about caring. And Dale, thank you for putting caring into action with your fire update and all the Red Cross does to serve people in crisis. Mari and Dick, we appreciate you highlighting Toastmasters, and Daniil, you were very eloquent in your speaker introduction. Al, congratulations again on your Peace Award, so well deserved. And once again, thank you, Leah, for sharing your inspiring stories of the ripple effects of peace building. All we need to ask is, how can I help? Well, in the chat, Scott reminded us that today is the autumnal equinox, so happy first day of autumn. Fall is a great season for service, and I'd like to remind all of you that signups are open for volunteering at the new Rotary Youth Center on October 3rd. Just follow the link in the chat box to sign up. My husband Kevin and I will be there celebrating our 28th wedding anniversary, so help us. We need 4 more volunteers from 9 to 10:30 and 7 more from 10:30 to noon. We'll also be holding a virtual business exchange next month on October 27th, and we're currently looking for members to host. If you're interested in hosting an exchange, please contact Siobhan. And now as we enter into a new Rotary week, please join me in opening the doors of opportunity for healing, for recovery, and for peace building. As Rotarians, we're here to make our world healthier, more sustainable, and with justice for all. Have a good day, everyone. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.